Welcome to Burlesk Custom Guitars. Guitars have been my passion for my entire life. Handcrafted by my hands to be played by yours. Each one I create is like no other. My name is James. Come along with me on this musical journey. Hi there, welcome to Burlesk Guitars episode 13, How to Buy a Used Guitar. Today I'm going to take you over all of the aspects of acoustic guitars and electric guitars that I possibly can to give you the benefit of buying a used guitar so that there's no big surprises after. Because what happens a lot is you go buy a used guitar, you're excited, you want the guitar, you pick it up, and then you realize there's a bunch of problems with it. So I'm going to go over what to look for and problems to avoid. Here we go. So the biggest thing you want to look for on an acoustic guitar is the top. And I've got a really good example of something that has been fairly not taken care of very well. It hasn't been humidified. And if you look at it, it's actually bubbling behind the bridge. It's got a slight bubble going on. It's not tremendous. It was way worse, believe it or not. But I did give it a steam treatment and it's been humidified for quite some time. What'll happen to an acoustic guitar is it will bubble here and it will cave in under here, and you can actually see it's slightly caved in right in here, right behind the sound hole. You'll see that it's got a little dip there. So that means this guitar is not on its way out, but it's not been very well maintained. And that is a good sign that you need to get some work done. So what'll probably happen, and you can see it on this guitar even, is the bridge is lifted off. So what I recommend doing is taking a little business card with you or something like that, just something paper, and I'm going to show you what to do. So these are the little things you can do when you're looking at a used acoustic, but this is what I wanted to show you. You can take something like this. This is about the thickness of a business card, and if it's going to slide under the bridge in spots, you know that the bridge is lifting. And this is a very mild case. It's only lifting on this corner and then about halfway across. So there are things you can do to fix that. You can repress this and reglue it. So it's not a huge deal. If you see something that's sticking up quite a bit, forget about it. This guitar is actually considered now a campfire guitar because of the fact that it's got these problems on the top and it's got a bridge that's lifting. However, the client wanted me to get this thing working as best as I could and get it so he could take it campfire. Another thing we want to look for with guitars, on acoustic guitars, is the back of the neck and around here. It will delaminate, and you can see that this guitar is slightly doing it. You can see a little crack there in the finish and such, which means that the neck is dried out. Another sign of improper humidification. This isn't too bad. If you see it all the way around the guitar, that means that this whole pocket's dried out and this neck needs to be reset, which is a big job. So if you see that, walk away. Here's the big thing, frets. I've already done the frets on this guitar, so we're going to show you some shots of frets and what to look for. But like I said, you're excited, you're going to buy a guitar, and the last thing people do, and it's the first thing I do when I get a guitar, is I slide these over in the common areas and the comfort areas. So that would be in here, in 5 and 7, and then down in this area if they're chicken pickers. But you want to look for pitting. There aren't any in here because I've so fabulously dressed these frets and crowned them. But you want to look for pitting underneath the strings, where the strings are. And you're not going to see them if you don't move the strings out of the way. So move the strings out of the way, have a look at the frets. If the frets are trashed, again, it's not, these aren't in any way things that should not make you want to buy the guitar, but you can address these with the person who's selling it and say, hey, you know, this thing's got some issues and I'm going to have to put some money out on this thing. So might be a way to get the price down on the guitar. So the next thing to look for on an acoustic is if it's got a preamp, you want to check that out and test that out as well, because there can be surprises along the way. Some folks will think that if you just test the tuner and see if that's working, oh, obviously the preamp's working. Well, that's not necessarily the case. That means that the signal is getting from here to here, but it might not be getting from here out. So there's a couple things that you want to do, and the main thing is to plug this sucker in to make sure everything's working. Preamps are very sensitive and they can be tricky, and the biggest thing to do, I like to do, especially with an acoustic, is just do a tap test. Make sure it's even all the way across. A lot of people will go in here, and this guitar, in one case, when it got here, had a piece of, it was a zip tie somebody put in between the pickup and the saddle. So there was literally no sound coming out of this thing. You could barely hear it. What I did was I actually reshaped the saddle and put a piece of wood and put wood on the bottom of the saddle and mounted it to the saddle so the contact was direct. You may find that some in between are not as loud, and that means that there's contact points in between that are not touching. It's very, very important that the saddle on an acoustic guitar, if it's got a preamp, makes full contact all the way across to that pickup that's underneath. If it doesn't, you're going to have weak sound. So this is another thing to do. You can play it and hear it. This is fairly even, so you know there's no problem here. But the real way to do it for me is a tap test. Use your nail, go all the way across, and you want an even sound. Now here's the biggest thing, besides frets with me, is the neck, and another thing to check for is the 13th fret hump, because you can play it up here, but when you get down here, you might not get any sound. This is fine because I fixed it. What a 13th fret hump is right in here where the contact point meets the body. You will get a little hump on the fretboard because of pressure, and it will lift up, usually depending upon how the guitar is built. Some are 12 at the body, and in this case we are 14. So in this case on the guitar it was technically a 15th fret hump that was going on. So I had to get that leveled down because the strings were buzzing anywhere past here. And with a guitar that's got a cutaway on it, obviously you want to play down here. If it doesn't have a cutaway on it, you're obviously just playing rhythm on it. So that's another thing to check for. Go down to the 12th fret or very close to the body. Just make sure that you can hear all those notes ringing. If not, and it's buzzing, you know you got a problem down here as well. This all literally has to do with humidification. So, like I said, the first question you should ask any acoustic bass or acoustic guitar, has the guitar received regular humidification? That's the big one. And that affects all of this. So, again, we're going back to frets, but you don't want a big hump down here because anything past this point is not going to play. And in some cases, it'll be up in here. You'll start getting fret buzz. And for a lot of guys that play jazz and stuff, you don't want that. You don't want that to buzz down here, and that's what will happen. So that all has to do with neck relief and such. Neck relief is very important on an acoustic guitar. If you see a back bow on a neck, it's not set up properly, period. Doesn't matter what kind of guitar it is, electric, what have you. The best way to check for back bow on a neck, or check to make sure that there is relief on a guitar, is from the top, this side of the neck, and you want to see some relief in here. Now it's probably pretty hard to get on the camera, but that's, you know, with your eye, you will see that there's a slight relief in here on every guitar you look at. Doesn't matter. Even the straight guitar necks aren't 100% straight, or they shouldn't be. So that's another thing to check for. If it's back bowed, you're going to notice probably that there's going to be a lot of fret wear in this area as well, because that means the strings are rubbing against those frets when they're playing chords even. So things to look for. So another thing I want you to note as well is the nut on an acoustic guitar, on any guitar really. A lot of guys will go in here and slot the nut thinking that's how they'll improve the action and stuff. It's actually quite a interesting and difficult technique to master. It's not something you just go in and start slotting and chopping it up. So the best way to check that is just to hit your open strings and hit them pretty hard if you can. Not like ridiculous, but. And of course this guitar is not going to buzz because it's perfectly set up by myself. But if you hear a buzzing, that means that the action at the nut is probably too low, or this neck is back bowed or what have you. But if someone's been messing around with the nut, there's another thing you might have to replace. So something to look at. So the bills are adding up here as I'm talking about the guitars, right? You know, with all this work that needs to be done, or the work that might have to be done. So you can either take that into consideration when you're purchasing it, or as I said, walk away. So we've recovered the guitar. It's not a bad guitar, it sounds okay, and it's going to have a life from now on. So, the best thing you can do for an acoustic guitar is one of these. There's many different kinds of humidifiers on the market. Ones that you leave in your case, ones that hang in between the strings and sit down, but again, you have to leave the guitar in the case. But I always find with those type humidifiers, whenever I open that case up, I can smell like a musty, moldy smell. And that is the fun fur that they usually line cases with, is getting the humidity rather than the guitar. So an in-sound hole humidifier is your best bet. And there's a bunch of these out on the market now. Kaiser actually, I believe, is the first one to come across that I ever had. And how it works is it fits in the sound hole and completely seals the sound hole. And you can get ones for concert size or for classical as well. And it's humidifying the guitar from the inside out, right? If you got lacquer and you've got a finish on top of this guitar, there's no way for humidity to get inside it. So the best way is from the inside out. And you can smell it, actually. When a guitar is humidified properly, I have a saying with my clients, is if you can smell wood, it's good. And it should smell like a little sauna. And you should be able to just go, and it smells like, you know, when you walk into a sauna that's like cedar lined or whatever, it's got that nice aroma of the wood. And that's what you want to look for. That's another real good way to check if someone's been humidifying, because you can ask them and they can say yes, but even when you walk in, go, hey, where's that humidifier for your guitar? And take a whiff of the guitar. People will look at you like you're crazy, but they'll think you're Jimi Hendrix playing it with your teeth. No, take a smell. If you can smell the wood, you know it's been humidified. Every now and then you'll find one of these around, an acoustic bass. They're rarities. They're like hen's teeth. And they're not really made by a lot of common builders. This is a Korean-made Rogue. And there's Beaver Creek makes one, and there's a couple other offshore builders that I found that build a reasonably priced acoustic bass. This one's kind of neat because it's a fretless bass. But like I said, acoustic basses are very, very rare to find. So if you see one, you know, give it a shot. You might want to go take a look at it. It is in what I would say interesting shape. It's had a few alterations and apparently some altercations. Check that bridge out. Yeah, so I'm not really 100% sure why. No, these are. I'm assuming it was buzzing before, and they put these in between to stop it from rattling. I'm guessing they lost the saddle in here because this is actually an acoustic electric, but they must have lost the saddle in here, and someone didn't know how to make a bone nut. I'm very curious to see once I get in here. I have not worked on this guitar yet, so I might be able.
Obvious.
I might be able to bring it back to life. It's completely in the eye of the beholder. If they want to just play it acoustically, it really needs a setup.
Yeah.
Then they could, and that's fine. If you know if the price is right, as they say. This guitar is in really bad need of a setup. The neck is backbowed on it, and it's a fretless, as you can see. And there's quite a bit of damage done on the fretboard. This is something you should look for. This is like fret wear on a bass. Right? So what'll happen here is it's creating a pit into the wood. So over a period of time on a fretless, you do have to have your neck reshaped every now and then, because the wear and tear will be digging a hole into the fretboard, and you'll get dead spots all up and down the neck, or buzzing, which is the effect of the grooves getting built in. If you look on a bass with the frets, it's almost the same pattern that you're going to see. As far as the pitting goes, it's that those little lines and scratches, those go across the frets as well, which I'm going to show you later on, and maybe in some pictures. But this is things to look for. Sand it out so it's nice and smooth. And then everything I basically said about acoustics applies to this as well. So everything I said to you in the previous segment on the acoustic guitar, take into consideration for this. Look at everything, do your tap testing, do the neck check the nut. I mean, like I said, I need a setup.